BEHR Texture Paint is a heavy-bodied product that is designed to impart a beautiful and stylish texture on walls and ceilings. Texture paint will also hide minor imperfections, such as small holes and cracks, so it is the right product for covering less than perfect walls. You will find that a 2-gallon container of BEHR Texture Paint is enough material to complete one coat on a 100 to 200 square foot area, depending on surface condition and application technique. BEHR offers 3 types of textures: smooth, sand, and popcorn ceiling finish. BEHR Texture Paint should be applied over primed surfaces or surfaces that have been previously painted with a low sheen product. Applying BEHR Texture Paint over higher sheen paints will inhibit the texture from adhering properly. Before you begin, make sure your walls are clean, free of surface imperfections, and primed if necessary. For a complete explanation of how to prepare your wall for painting and the tools you need for any paint project, such as brushes and painter's tape, see the BEHR How to Paint Interiors video. In addition to standard paint tools, applying texture paint requires a few items. You will need a 5-gallon size stir stick, a deep well paint tray, a loop roll cover, and, if you are going to create a knockdown finish, a wide putty knife or trowel. Take extra time to fully cover areas you do not want material to adhere to, such as the floor and walls adjacent to your project. BEHR Texture Paint is thicker and applies differently than a traditional paint. Multiple coats will be needed to achieve the desired texture effect. Begin your project by stirring BEHR Texture Paint thoroughly with a 5-gallon stir stick. It's important to stir for at least 2 minutes until the product is well blended and loose. The material should be the consistency of cooked oatmeal. Then, pour liberal amounts of texture paint into a deep well roller tray. Now you're ready to apply BEHR Texture Paint with a brush. First, load your paintbrush to prepare for cutting in. Dip a 3 to 4 inch wide nylon and polyester brush into the texture to about 1/3 the total length of the bristles. Then, remove the brush and dab it on the tray or the inside of the can a few times to remove excess texture. Repeat this at least twice to make certain the bristles have taken up the proper amount of texture. If the brush is properly loaded, you should be able to move the brush without too many drips. To cut in with a paintbrush, position the brush to the painted surface vertically, using the narrow edge of the brush as a guide. Ideally, you want to use the narrow edge as you would a pencil. A brush with an angled sash works best for cut-ins. Work in short, approximately 6-inch strokes. Avoid stopping and starting in the middle of stroke lengths. When painting vertically, work from top to bottom. Apply texture in a straight line and move at a pace that would prevent the texture from dripping below the brush. Use enough pressure on the surface to ensure control of your painted line, but don't press too hard. The bristles should flex slightly as you paint. Once the brush starts to stick or skip, which is called chatter, stop and reload your brush. After applying your straight line holding the brush vertically, turn the brush 90 degrees to gently smooth out your texture line with the wide edge of the brush. Do not brush back into any painted surface more than a couple of minutes after applying it. To avoid hard edges, gently smooth out or feather edges with the brush. Maintain a wet edge when painting a surface. Make certain the outside edge of the texture does not dry, so it can be joined to the next painted area. This technique is used to avoid lines resulting from a hard stop in the coating. When applying BEHR Texture Paint with a roller, roll the looped roller cover into the well of the paint tray. Do this several times to cover the entire surface of the roller cover with texture. Roll off excess texture onto the shallow end of the paint tray. Perform this procedure several times to ensure the roller cover is entirely saturated with texture. A properly loaded roller should not drip when moved and does not require you to apply force against a surface when painting. When applying texture paint, you will need to reload the roller more often than you would when applying traditional paint. A rule of thumb is that a properly loaded roller should cover a 3-foot by 3-foot area with 2 visits to the paint tray. For a traditional application of BEHR Texture Paint, You should simply roll or brush the product directly onto the wall, allowing the texture of the product and the stipple from the tools to determine the final look. This look will build up as additional coats are applied. With your brush, start at the top corner of the project area and cut in a 3-foot section of texture paint across the wall. Liberally reload the brush as necessary to achieve a 3-foot strip, approximately 3 inches wide. Working a 3-foot by 3-foot area, roll a V onto the surface. This will help to place an even distribution of texture onto the wall. The V should not be any wider than 1 arm's length, which is typically 24 to 32 inches. Start filling in the width of the V pattern from top to bottom. Be sure to roll over the cut-in areas as well. Reload the roller as necessary to completely cover the 3-foot by 3-foot area. Do not apply excessive pressure to a surface to try to squeeze more texture out. This can result in hard roller lines, drips, or sags. Instead, reload the roller. Let the tools do the work. Apply only enough pressure on the surface as necessary to deliver texture. Repeat this process of painting 3-foot by 3-foot sections until the entire surface is covered. To blend each new section with the previous section, start your first roller pass 3 inches over the previous section. This will avoid a hard edge and visible lines. Stand away from the wall and preview your work periodically to ensure an even look. At least 2 coats are required to achieve a traditional textured effect. The first coat of texture paint is a foundation coat. Allow the first coat of texture paint to dry at least 4 hours, then begin applying a second coat, following the process just shown. Applying the second coat will provide a more uniform and consistent appearance. Applying bare texture paint to the ceiling using the traditional technique follows the same sequence of steps. First, cut in using your brush, then roll 3 by 3 sections by creating the V and filling in. Bare texture paint applied to a wall should be painted for the best protection and to add color. Bare texture paint on the ceiling may be painted if you want to change the color. Allow texture paint to dry for 24 to 48 hours prior to applying a coat of paint. Remember, for instructions on proper interior paint application, please see the BEHR How to Paint Interiors video. Another popular texture paint technique is called a knockdown finish. You can use bare sand or smooth texture to create this look. To create a knockdown texture style, work quickly, completing 1 wall or surface at a time before moving to the next wall. Working with a partner will help. Starting in the top corner, begin to cut in around the perimeter of the wall or ceiling. Apply a 3-foot section of bare sand or smooth texture paint across the wall. Reload the brush as necessary to achieve a 3-foot strip, approximately 3 inches wide. Starting again in a 3-foot section at the top corner of your project, roll the bare texture paint onto the surface. Work the roller back and forth across the wall until the 3-foot section is completely filled. Be sure to roll over the cut-in areas as well. Reload the roller as necessary. Repeat this process of painting 3-foot sections until the initial section has set up or dried slightly after approximately 15 to 20 minutes. It's important to ensure the first coat does not completely dry. This is where having a painting partner comes in handy, since he or she can continue rolling the first coat while you apply the second coat of texture. After the first coat has set for 15 to 20 minutes, return to the top corner of your newly textured surface and roll a second coat of texture paint onto a 3-foot section. Allow the second coat to set for 5 minutes. Next, using a putty knife or trowel, lightly smooth out the surface of the 3-foot by 3-foot section. Work from top to bottom or side to side within the section until you have created a look you like. With your roller, texture the next 3-foot section to the side of the previous one. Allow it to set for 5 minutes. Then, using the putty knife or trowel, use the same technique to smooth out the new 3-foot by 3-foot section. As you go, overlap and blend each section to avoid hard edges. Stand away from the wall and preview your work periodically to ensure an even look. Continue creating 3-foot knockdown sections across the wall. Repeat the process of texturing and blending until the entire surface is covered. BEHR texture paint applied to a wall should be painted for the best protection and to change the color. BEHR texture paint on the ceiling may be painted if you want to change the color. Allow texture paint to dry for 24 to 48 hours prior to applying a coat of paint. Remember, for instructions on proper interior paint application, please see the BEHR How to Paint Interiors video. Now step back and enjoy your new textured finish. The best results come from the highest quality products. Good, better, BEHR.